Hello, everybody, and welcome to this introduction to the Selling Online programme. And it's the Pathways to E-commerce version because most of you either are or have recently been clients on the Pathways programme, and you will probably have indicated an interest in learning more about selling online, whether that's for a new business that you're starting or another business that you want to grow or diversify with. So I'm here to introduce you to this 13 module program, which is all about selling online. It's all of the steps from start to finish, really. And at the end of it, you get the opportunity to sign up for the program. But this is just the introduction so that you can find out whether it is for you. So during the next sort of half hour, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit more about the aim of the programme. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself, and then we'll look at e-commerce as part of sort of modern retail these days. And I'll give you some e-commerce, quick UK facts and figures. I'll cover a little bit about why you should sell online, although I imagine that you've already worked that out for yourself. Look at what do you need to start, and then I'll tell you more about the programme. So I'll cover the 13 modules, what the detail is of those modules. And as I said, at the end, you can decide whether you want to use the QR code to sign up and register to attend the whole programme. So the overall aim really is to introduce you as new or growing businesses to the opportunities and methods of selling online. And it does cover the entire e-commerce journey. So I do everything from thinking about selling online and what you need to do in order to start your business in the first place, to right through to the end point, which is the sort of monitoring your performance and reporting back to yourself. So it covers everything in between, and we'll look at that in detail just shortly. I will be encouraging group-based discussion and sharing of experience and tips. That is often the best way to learn. I'll provide some practical exercises as well, just to bring relevance to the learning outcomes that we're going to be covering. And the whole thing really should enable you to create your own e-commerce action plan. So the step-by-step process that we're going to go through will allow you to take away the actions that you need at each stage and help you to develop your own approach and your own strategy. There will be a web-based hub which will allow you to access the learning material, and through the live Q&As and discussions that we will be doing, you will be able to receive some sort of one-to-one support. So any burning questions that really affect you and your business, you'll be able to ask those during the sessions and get the specific help that you might be looking for. I will try and get a couple of guest speakers on board as well. It will break up the monotony of me presenting all the time, but also I do happen to know some really good expert speakers in digital marketing, websites, etc. So that will hopefully help. And overall, the programme will help you to highlight the areas that you might benefit from further skills development. So I'm hoping that you're going to learn a lot, but that you'll also be able to see where you need to go and learn a little bit more in certain areas. Now, quick introduction to me. My name's Karen Riddick. I own an ethical soft furnishing business called Second Nature Online. It is a brand, but I started it off as a hobby in 2008. Now, it really was just a hobby then, and lots of you here today may also be looking to set up something part-time alongside maybe a paid job that you've got. That's certainly what I did, but eventually I left and run my e-commerce business full-time. So I now sell on 8 different platforms. That's websites and marketplaces as well, like Amazon and Etsy and several others. Over the last 16 years, I've tried many more than those though, so I've got quite a lot of background and experience to share with you about the different methods of selling online. 80% of what we sell is to your average household consumer, so B2C, but we also have wholesale customers. So 20% of our sales are B2B. 15% of our customers come from overseas, but the vast majority, 85%, are here in the UK. Now, before Brexit, that was probably half and half. We had a great market in Europe, and some of you here might have Europe on your mind as a potential market for your products. Do not be disheartened by Brexit. It was pretty catastrophic at the start, I have to say, but there are lots of ways that you can sell in Europe here, and I'll be able to help you with that. I am based in Dumfries. We've got 5 staff here with the team. We've got our premises here in Dumfries as well. And we mostly do online sales, but even as an e-commerce business, I am still a big advocate of town centre retail. I think we need to protect the physical retail spaces that we have. And so we are also setting up a physical premise as well later this year. Now, what I do is I use all of my experience to develop and deliver e-commerce training. I've been doing that since 2017. There is nothing theoretical about anything that I will be telling you about. It's all based on my experience, my observations, my mistakes, my genius moments, all of these things. But for that reason, I do remind you that this is my perspective and everybody's business is different. So when you're taking away the learning outcomes from me, then always think about how that might apply to your own business. What works and doesn't work for me might not be the same for you, but you should certainly get a lot out of the journey and just how to approach things. Now, just quickly looking at e-commerce retail as it fits into the wider context of retail these days, this is a bit like what your journey through this program will be. So you're going to be starting your e-commerce business. You've got a brand or a product. Now, you might be making your own products. You might be buying them in. You might be rebranding them. There's lots of different ways that you can end up with products ready to sell. But you will be doing some sort of product development or sourcing. You'll be doing some market research. You then move through into the sort of selling aspects of it. Now, you might be selling in a physical store, on your own website. You might be using marketplaces like eBay or not in the high street. You might have other distribution means as well. But behind the scenes there, you'll be doing your merchandising, your marketing, your advertising. All of this is covered in this program. And the whole reason we're here is for your customers. So you might have B2C customers and wholesale B2B customers. You might have both. More than likely, you will be reaching domestic and international customers because it's quite hard not to sell internationally when you're selling online. But I'm going to be able to help you if you've got any worries about that. And behind the scenes there is all about your order fulfillment, your customer service. And again, I will be covering all of this as part of this journey. So let's have a little look at some facts and figures about UK e-commerce. Well, unsurprisingly, a very high number of UK adults shop online. It's at 89%, but that figure is only going to rise further. Just over 27% of all UK retail sales are now online, and the UK is the world's third largest e-commerce market. So we're very advanced in the UK, which is great because you do get access to lots of different tools and you know that your audience is out there. And when we think about why do customers shop online, well, we all know why we ourselves shop online, so it's not hard to work that one out. We all like the convenience, the selection, the ability to find deals and compare prices. We like sometimes just getting home delivery and being able to avoid crowds. It's also great to be able to look at product reviews and find out what other people thought of products that you might be interested in. And the fact that you can shop 24 hours a day is always handy for people, especially when you're working funny hours, you've got family caring responsibilities, etc. So lots of reasons why we all like to shop online. And let's have a look at a few of other facts and figures, more about just the business aspect of e-commerce. So there was actually a record number of e-commerce businesses were in place in this year and last year. It's somewhere between 200,000 and 600,000. Now, the 600,000 probably includes other online retail businesses like Airbnb and stuff like that, travel sites. So the 200k is probably closer to the mark when it comes to actual product e-commerce businesses. And that sounds like a lot, but actually it's not really. And there's still plenty of space for you to be operating there. Also, e-commerce was the top registered business type in 2024. Again, it's not surprising. It's just become such an accessible way to start a business. But interestingly, the growth of e-commerce startups is starting to slow down as well. So that's also good news for anybody who is actually starting up. A little bit less competition there. But here's a more sobering piece of data, and it's estimated that 70% of e-commerce startups fail within the first year. Now, I have no trouble believing that because I know the kind of things that can go wrong with e-commerce businesses, and it tends to be things like finances. So people maybe not getting the numbers right, absolutely crucial that you do all your homework and work out what all your costs, etc., are going to be before you get started. Sometimes people are not doing enough research before they get going. Their marketing just might not be what it what it should be, and the sort of optimization of their product pages. There's so many little things like this that can just combine to make it very difficult for somebody to get anywhere with their e-commerce business. But then you've got things that are out of your control, like competition as well, and customer service. People expect a lot when they're shopping online, and you need to be able to deliver that. So lots of reasons why 70% of e-commerce startups fail. But I hope that this course, because it covers so many aspects and the whole journey, that this will make sure that you will be in the 30% of e-commerce startups that don't fail. So looking again, we had a look there at why do people shop online, but we're also interested in why we should sell online. And really, it's just such a great model for small businesses. It can be modified to suit most people's circumstances. It's an accessible means of employment and income, low startup capital. You should not need to spend much starting an e-commerce business. You can grow at your own pace. It's flexible. You can work from home. And it's great just for your personal and professional development. You will pick up so many skills, you really will. And what a fabulous way it is to feed a passion or an interest or a skill that you have. I'm a big believer in playing to your strengths, and e-commerce is a great way to actually do that. Now, if you're starting up an e-commerce business, often people say, what do I need to start? And really, it's very simple. You obviously need a product or a product idea. You'll need some form of electronic device. After all, it is e-commerce. So ideally a desktop computer or a laptop, but you can get by on a tablet. Strictly speaking, you could run an e-commerce business on a mobile phone, but it would be a bit tricky and a bit sore on the eyes, I would think. So you need a reasonable sized device just so that you can see what you're doing. You'll need some basic technology skills, and I only mean basic. You just need to know how to navigate your way around websites, follow basic instructions, work to structures and frameworks, etc. Just sort of follow step-by-step processes, and that's pretty much it. If you can do that, then you'll soon pick up the other skills that you need in a technology sense for e-commerce. And also just having basic research skills, knowing where to go to find information. You'll regularly find yourself having to check things out, and so you need to know again where to go to find the information that you need. On top of these other professional skills, you also need the sort of personal attributes really to have an e-commerce store. You need to have motivation. You know, you need to want to do this. You need to have time to do it, whether that's 3 o'clock in the morning or during the day, but you need to know that you've got time in your week to actually run your e-commerce business, and you will need some kind of space as well. Now, there's lots of sellers who store their products elsewhere, maybe in third-party warehouses. They'll maybe rent shelves for storage. In that case, you basically just need enough space to flip your computer open and perhaps have a printer there. You don't need anything else space-wise. Obviously, if you are storing your own products, then you're going to need a spare room, a garage, your mum's attic, something like that. That is where we all start off. So these are the kind of things that you need. Now, just moving on to the format of this programme, and on the next slide, I will show you what the 13 module titles are so that you can see how this journey will work for you. And I will be releasing these modules. They'll be recorded modules. They'll be released between the 19th of May and the 15th of August. So probably one a week or something like that. And every week we'll have a live 2-hour Q&A and discussion session, okay? Still to decide whether it's going to be one or two. It depends on how many people sign up and what people's needs are. Now, when we come to the 2-hour sessions, the first hour will be module specific. So we will only be discussing the most recently released module, just so that we can stay on topic. But the second hour will be for general discussions and Q&As. That will be useful for people who have joined the programme later than other people, or people who are a little bit more advanced and don't need to cover some of the earlier stuff. So that is the plan, really. And as I said, I would love to be able to have some other sessions, guest speakers, if I'm able to do that. So finally, here we are. I'm going to tell you what the module titles are for this programme. And as you'll see, it will be a step-by-step journey. All I'm going to do here, folks, is just read out the titles to you. On the following slides, I go into a little bit more detail about what each module contains. But for anybody who reads through this slide and knows already that they want to register, you can simply scan the QR code or go to that URL there and you can register for the course. You'll have to fill out a short form which just tells me who you are, what your email address is, what stage of business you're at, and then just what kind of experience you've already got or not got with e-commerce. But let's go through the titles here. So as you might imagine, module 1 is all about starting your e-commerce business. Module 2 is about developing and sourcing your products. Then we move on to more sort of research-based topics, so understanding your customers, learning from your competitors, and then we move into the selling side of things. So selling on your own websites, module 5 and 6 is about selling on online marketplaces. Module 7 is then just how to create page content, and module 8 very much linked to that because it's all about optimizing and marketing that content. So there's two different sides to content creation. We'll then move into the sort of more customer side of things. So module 9 is about fulfilling your orders and returns, and then module 10 is about managing your online customers. Module 11 is business administration and accounting. It's a necessary evil. Module 12 with performance reporting. And this is the point where you can truly look at your whole e-commerce business, how it's performing, and make any necessary changes. Now, module 13 is almost like an add-on. It's about buying and selling internationally. Now, I do include international aspects throughout the whole program. So all of the modules might have a little bit of international in there anyway, but it's such a big topic that it also warrants having its own module where we cover more of the technical aspects of buying and selling internationally. So just things like working with couriers, assigning commodity codes to your products, the kind of things that you might need for an import or export declaration, stuff like that I will cover as well. So as I say, if that's enough to ignite your interest and you don't need to hear any more, just use the QR code or the URL and go straight to the registration. If you do want to hear a little bit more about what each module entails, what the detail is, then stay on because I will now go through the content here. So module 1 obviously is all about starting your e-commerce business. So I start with this transition from personal to business selling, and that's because lots of sellers grow an e-commerce business after tinkering with eBay or Vinted or something like that. And we look at how and when to make that transition. It can be quite confusing for people, but I will show you how to work it out. We look at business planning. Obviously, all businesses need some form of plan, but there's certain things that you should include in an e-commerce business plan that I'll be able to tell you about. Registering your business. Are you going for sole trader or limited company? Do you want to have a trademark? Something I do recommend, so I'll show you how to do that. And whether or not you're planning or already are or are not VAT registered, you do need to know the basics of VAT because you are part of a supply chain and it helps you to understand your own accounts as well. Business bank accounts is quite a simple subject, but again, there's certain bank accounts are really good for e-commerce businesses. So we'll have a look at some of that. And then just a whole lot of other stuff about just making sure that you're ready to sell online. Module 2 is about developing and sourcing your products. So we look at product ideas. Have you already got them? If not, where do you get them from? How do you research your products? Where are you sourcing your products and what kind of production do you need or are you involved in already? There's other things you need to look at as well to make sure that your product's suitable for e-commerce. We cover packaging, just as important as the product sometimes in terms of presentation and cost of sending it out. Very important that you understand about product safety and compliance and just what your obligations are there. And even more crucial probably for a business is pricing. As we saw in the last slide about e-commerce failure, that getting the numbers wrong is one of the main reasons why businesses fail. And so we do have a little look about how to price your e-commerce products as well, just to make sure that you've got the margins there that you need. Module 3 is all about understanding your customers. Who are they? What motivates or drives them to make the purchases that they do? What do they need from you? What can you provide them with? And where are they shopping? You know, wherever they shop, that's where you want to be selling. So you need to know more about this. How do they behave online in terms of timing and devices and stuff like that? What influences them? And then I'll finish that section by showing you how to undertake your own consumer research. Obviously, you can get lots of research information just by searching for it online, but you can also do your own primary research, like your own surveys, which are easier than you might imagine, and it gives you incredibly insightful data that you can use to really tailor towards your marketing and where to pitch your business to. Module 4 is very similar. It's all about research again. It's learning from your competitors. So who are they and what is their purpose? Who are their customers and are they the same as yours? Where are they operating and what is their marketing strategy? It's very easy to find out what your competitors are doing because it's all online. So you want to know what ideas and lessons can you take from them and where are the niche areas that you can target. And again, I'll show you how to do your own competitor analysis using a simple grid that I've created. Moving on to Module 5, this is all about selling via your own website. Now, obviously, this course is not showing you how to set up a website. That's a whole different expert area, but it does at least show you the importance of having your own website, how they work, what are the advantages and disadvantages of them, and how can you plan your layout and your theme and the features that you might want to have in your own website, and also a little bit about just choosing the right platform for you and your business. Similarly, we've got selling on online marketplaces. Now, obviously, marketplaces are just another form of website, but these are completely different when it comes to selling. These are third-party marketplaces where you can join other sellers on there. So we'll look at how online marketplaces work, the advantages and disadvantages, and then I'll go through some of the more popular marketplaces in the UK, and I'll cover in some detail eBay, Etsy, and Amazon because they are the top three. So I do separate 20-minute sessions just on those marketplaces, and we take a little look about how to find the right marketplace for your business. Module 7 is all about creating your product page content, so titles and descriptions, what identifiers do you need, barcodes, SKUs, product specifications and instructions, do you need those? Is there any information or labeling requirements? Are you going to be selling in variations or bundling stuff together? And crucially, how to go about creating the best images and videos, so product media for your product pages. Module 8 leads very swiftly on from that because Module 8 is then about how you market your product page content. So creating your page content is one thing, but creating it and marketing it is different. So this is all about digital marketing here. So we look at the most popular forms of digital marketing for e-commerce. So that's SEO, content marketing, email marketing, social media, and a little bit on paid advertising as well. So by the time you've been through all that, hopefully you would be thinking about fulfilling your customer orders. And so in Module 9, we look at both delivery and returns because both are just as important as each other. So what do your customers want to know about delivery? What kind of services are out there? What are your responsibilities? And then when it comes to returns, what is the customer's right to return? You need to understand that. What are the common reasons that somebody might send something back? How do you remedy it? How do you set a returns policy? And what other logistics you need to know about? Module 10, again, quite similar because it's all about your customers here, but this is specifically about managing your customers. So what are your responsibilities and what are customers' expectations? Because the two do not always line up. And what does the law require? Because again, customers' expectations are not always lined up to what the law gives them. But we'll look at all of that. We'll look at the basics of GDPR because you will be storing data, and we'll look at just delivering great customer service and what the impact of that is. How to offer customers the means to contact you, dealing and promoting sort of reviews and feedback, and dealing with complaints, which with any business, it comes as part of the course. Hopefully it won't be something you have to deal with too often, but it's good to know how to approach it if you ever need to. Module 11 is just going to be about administration, really. So what are the admin requirements that you can expect and what tools are out there to help you? I also just look at a sort of average day in the life of an e-commerce seller, which is quite useful. And then we move into some accounting. So what requirements and obligations do you have for accounts? Any business has got those. But again, there's a certain way you can go about e-commerce ones just to make your life easier. So we'll look at just some of the structure of your accounts and the bookkeeping things that you need to know about, and also just some of the data that will come out that will help you. And finally, there in the main part of the programme is just about managing your performance. So we'll look at how to set yourself sort of metrics and baseline data that you can monitor your performance. We'll look at how to set yourself targets as well. And then we'll look at some of the tactics you can use for decreasing your costs but increasing your revenue, because that's what it's all about. And we'll also look at managing your e-commerce performance, which is different to managing your financial performance. So we'll look more at the analytics there of your web platforms. We look at the RACE model, which stands for Reach, Act, Convert and Engage, and it's all about the stages you go through when dealing with traffic to your website and customers, and it just helps you to separate things out and see a bit of a funnel going on there. And I'll also show you just how to create a really simple performance plan that you can set up to record data and actually measure your performance. And finally, it's what it's all about when it comes to data is making data-led business decisions. So how can you make the right decisions for your business based on the data that you have before you? As I said, Module 13 is almost a standalone module because it's not entirely focused on e-commerce, but there's a lot of e-commerce stuff in there. We look at the opportunities for selling internationally and how to research some of your products and markets. Now, you will find, folks, that when selling online, inevitably you end up selling overseas if you've allowed your website to have, or marketplace to have visibility there. So you don't always have to do a lot of research, but if you're aiming for a particular market, then it makes sense to do research as well. I'll show you how to make all of this pretty easy with websites and marketplaces. So because these platforms are already set up, they're enabled for international activity, it's really quite straightforward. So I'm just going to show you how to make sure that you get the most out of that. We'll also look at some of the more technical sides of international trading. So things like classifying your products, finding the right commodity code for it, costing out the price of importing and exporting so that you can incorporate that into your pricing as well. We'll look at shipping and customs that you need to go through. And I'll also touch on selling to the EU post-Brexit. There's still a great market in the EU. It is a bit more expensive, a little bit more complicated than it used to be, but it's much, much better than it was just immediately after Brexit, and it's definitely something you should still look at. So there we have it, folks, a 30-minute introduction to the Selling Online programme, and it's the Pathways to E-commerce version. Now, for anybody who stayed on till the end there, you may be feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the volume of content that you saw in those modules, but remember that we are doing this over the period of about 12 to 14 weeks. You have plenty of time to work through the areas that are important to you. Not all modules will be that relevant to you, so again, you'll be focusing on the bits that are important to you, and you will have the live Q&A sessions to get the help that you need as well. So if you do want to register for the full programme, then I would just ask you to use the QR code or the URL to go and complete the second part of the registration form. You already have access to the members area because you've signed up to watch this video, but I will also need the other information from you just so that I can set the Q&A times, find a little bit more out about what stage of business that you're at and what your experience of e-commerce is, and also need your email address so that I can make sure that you have the Zoom invitation. So that's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you on the full programme when it starts week beginning the 19th of May. Thank you very much.